world requires that we identify stigma. And I think that's a word that a lot of us may have walked in terms of that part, stigma, and discrimination against people with disabilities as major barriers to their full and effective participation in all aspects of their lives, including social, political, and economic. Everyone has a right, to have access to these key resources that defines them as human beings. So it also requires that we work intentionally and urgently together, right? Intentionally, not just, randomly, but intentionally. This is what we need to do. These are the rights that we have to adhere to, and these are the principles that are guiding our interventions. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's so very important for us to posit and to examine from the Convention of the Rights of People Living with Disabilities, and allow me to go through some of them. The principles of the present convention speaks to respect for inherent dignity, individual autonomy, including the freedom to make one's own choices, and independence of persons. So again, it is important for us to respect people for who they are, because they are human beings, first and foremost. Non-discrimination, and I think this is so very broad, right? Because sometimes we are not even aware that we are being discriminatory in our practices, right? The mere fact that, we have differences in different spaces and prohibits other persons from accessing different opportunities, those too are inherently discriminatory practices that we have to garner against. So it's a conscientious involvement. We have to understand that fact, and we not just only have to speak those facts, nor is it written on laws or books, but we really, when our actions really aligns with those conventions, then we are going to see a world that is equitable for all and not just only for some. I know this has been a major challenge for many of you sitting in the rooms. I know that the woes and the challenges that a lot of our single parents who are struggling with children who are differently abled, trying to access the key resources that makes them even a Grenadian citizen, and we have so many barriers against those, right? And I'm saying here today that that is discriminatory, and we have to bridge those gaps. So at least we have equal opportunities and access for all. Full and effective participation and inclusion in society. I'm going to read that again. Full and effective participation and inclusion in society. So that participation does not have to be for one particularly able-bodied persons or people, but rather participation that includes and takes into account the differences in people. So it shouldn't be a second thought. It should be a natural process. And we as human beings have to aim at that, a natural process where we accept people and understand the fact that, we have to give them the chance to enjoy basic life, opportunities and freedom. Because guess what? It is their right. Why is it their right? Because they are human beings. Respect for differences and acceptance of persons with disabilities as part of human diversity and humanity. I think that is self-explanatory, but I still want to just unpack it a little bit so that at least we are centered and we have, the same common understanding. Respect for differences and acceptance, and the word acceptance, not what you want to happen, but what is presented to you. If I am defining myself as this, we have to be able to accept persons, accept people for who they are, not what we want them to be, who they are. Why? Because it is their inherent right. As people living with disabilities, we have to respect their community to be and to belong, because they are part of our society, they are part of our community. And equal equality of opportunities, equal opportunities for all, and in some instances, equitable opportunities, meeting people where they are, and not where you want them to be, but necessarily where they are. And I think once we have those ingredients in place and those necessary intervention strategies in place, I think it augurs for a better community, a better family, a better society. Accessibility. They should be able to access. I know, my colleagues would expand on certain areas, I wouldn't go in detail, but accessibility, they have a right, we all have a right to access opportunities of happiness, opportunities that would allow us to reach our full potential. So I think in our actions and in our attitudes, we have to take these things into consideration. And equality between men and women. Ladies and gentlemen, I work in a field where I see on a daily basis, a lot of our women and men too as well, who are differently abled, are the end spectrum of abuse, and it's not right. It's not just saying it is not right. It is just, a human atrocity that we really need to deal with. Not because somebody's different means that we should take advantage, all right? And we have to remember that. And it's not just only about talking. We have to learn as a people to mirror our speech with actions. Actions that definitely would have lasting impressions upon the people that we serve, that we walk with, and that we want to see experience what it is meant to be, a Grenadian, a citizen of this country, a family member. And respecting for the evolving capacities of children with disabilities, and respect for the right of children with disabilities to preserve their identities. We have an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'm seeing more adults in the room than children, right? But I'm happy to see we have children here in our midst, because they are certainly our future, and we know that. It's not just only speak, where history has taught us that. And so it's very important for us to teach our children, where they can make a positive contribution to this country, where they can become a positive role model, amongst their families, amongst their communities, within the school, making that difference. And so our attitude towards people living with disability should be an approach to life. It should be an approach to life. It's not something that we should have to learn. It should be automatic. Why? Because of respect of differences. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think I would have said a lot, and I would leave the floor open now.